The city was alive, buzzing with lights that never slept. But for Meera, the neon glow felt more like a spotlight on her own insecurities, illuminating every flaw she thought she had. She had met Arav 6 months ago at a crowded coffee shop, his smile effortless, magnetic. It was intoxicating, how he looked at her like she was the only person in a room of strangers, how his words wrapped around her like a warm, dangerous blanket. At first, it was thrilling. The late-night calls, the spontaneous drives along empty streets, his whispered promises of a love that would conquer everything. Friends warned her. He was too charming, too intense, too good to be true. But warnings never reach the heart until the heart learns the hard way. Arav had a way of making Meera feel alive, yet every thrill came with a subtle sting. A careless comment here, a jealous glance there, and suddenly, Meera found herself questioning her own worth. She excused him. He was complicated, mysterious. Aren't those the men who leave the deepest marks? Their relationship spiraled quickly. When he ignored her texts for hours, she'd convince herself he was busy, needed space. But when he called out her insecurities in public, her cheeks burned with humiliation, and she silently promised to change. Each fight ended with him holding her hand, whispering, "You're the only one who truly understands me." And she believed him. The toxicity was subtle at first, little lies, small manipulations, blurred boundaries. But soon it became impossible to distinguish love from control. Arav's intensity was suffocating, yet Meera couldn't walk away. Every time she tried, something inside her ached to stay, as if leaving meant losing a part of herself she didn't yet understand. One rainy evening, as city lights reflected off wet asphalt, Arav's anger finally erupted. He accused her of betrayal, of being careless, of not loving him enough. Meera's voice trembled as she tried to defend herself, tears mingling with raindrops. He grabbed her wrist, not hard, but enough to make her flinch. "You don't get it, Meera! You're mine!" he yelled, the intensity of his gaze cutting deeper than any knife. That night, she sat alone in her apartment, shaking, heart racing, staring at the phone. She wanted to call her friends, her family, someone to tell her she wasn't insane. But deep down, she knew they wouldn't understand why she stayed, why she still loved him despite everything. Toxic love has a language only the trapped heart can speak. Weeks turned into months. Meera tried to hold on to her own identity, but it slipped like sand through her fingers. Her friends noticed the change. Her laughter was less frequent, her eyes duller. Even her work began to suffer. Arav demanded all her attention, all her energy. She thought love was supposed to be giving, but this was different. It was consuming. Then came the night that changed everything. Arav had been distant for days, distracted, texting someone else in secret. Meera's heart sank as she discovered the messages. She confronted him, voice cracking, but he laughed, a sound that once thrilled her, now cut her to the bone. "You think you own me?" he sneered. The words were poison, and they burned through the last of her illusions. She packed a small bag and left. The city that once felt like magic now seemed cold and indifferent. Alone, she wandered through empty streets, the echoes of his laughter haunting her. The toxic love that once intoxicated her had left her hollow, questioning everything she thought she knew about love, trust, and herself. Months passed. Meera tried to rebuild, to remember who she was before him. She laughed again cautiously, like a bird testing its wings. But some nights, when the rain pattered against her window and the city lights shimmered like cruel reminders, she felt the ghost of his love wrap around her, and she realized, some loves never leave you, even when they destroy you. The tragedy of toxic love isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet. A lingering ache, a whispered doubt, a memory that makes you flinch. Meera survived, but she carried Arav in the shadows of her mind, a reminder that love can be both intoxicating and lethal, a cruel paradox that leaves scars invisible to the world but eternal in the heart. And as she looked at the city lights from her small apartment, she whispered to herself, "I loved him. I lost myself. And yet I am still here." The city buzzed on, indifferent, and she finally understood that survival was the only victory she could claim in a love so toxic, it threatened to consume everything.